Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So far, we have talked about what environmental audits are related with. We have talked about the objectives, and we have also talked about the methodology of the environmental audits. So here you can check the definition of environmental audit. So very comprehensive one. Environmental audit is defined as the systematic examination of the interactions between any business operation and its surroundings. This includes all emissions to air, land, and water, legal constraints, the effects on neighboring community, landscape, and ecology, and the public perception of the operating company in the local area. Environmental audit does not stop at compliance with legislation, nor is it a greenwashing public relation exercise. Rather, it is a total strategic approach to the organization's activities. So, as we explained earlier, it is a complete monitoring and evaluation of the environmental management system. It is going to work out all the important procedures which have already been adopted. It is a kind of rechecking. So it will be simply covering all the processes which involve the environmental issues in one way or the other, and then it will the impact is also evaluated. Then it will be compared with the standards, how much the value of any kind of parameter is existing within the industry, and then if it is not within the limit, then we will also recommend a compliance report, and a follow-up would be required in that case if it is not within the limits. And then furthermore, it will also be helping the overall evaluation of our EMS, as well as from both point of view, from management as well as technological point of views. Now here is the functions, like to improve the organization's compliance, and to prevent damage and the tendency for environmental damage, to improve resource use through reduction in material use, to minimize waste, and to identify recycling opportunities. So as I explained in methodology, the implications of this reduction will also be evaluated, that if we are reducing the waste, how it is what kind of implications it is having on the different processes, like input materials, like the processes, like the operations, like the final disposal, and environmental implications. So all these things are also a part of the environmental audit. So here are some of the benefits. I think it's again quite self-explanatory, like identification of the risk, and use as a basis for the development of environmental management policies or efforts to improve existing plans. Then prevention of financial losses through the uh, closing of an organizational activity if it is uh, not beneficial in terms of finances, and then avoidance of legal sanctions against an organization. So if some organization or industry are exploiting the limits, they are exceeding the limits, then in that case the auditors have the right to apply some sanctions, and some fine are also possible to be imposed on that industry. So in that case, environmental audit is a very beneficial monitor, so that all the rules and regulations are complied, are brought within the limits, to avoid any kind of the such risks of sanctions and fines. So here is the scope, and I think it is again quite self-explanatory. The handling history of the natural resources, and the handling and storage of chemicals, environmental risk assessments, and then waste management control systems. So all these things are included in our environmental audit. By the way, all these things, if you have an idea of environmental impact assessment, you have already considered all the environmental implications of your whole possibilities. So how you differentiate environmental audit from the environmental impact assessment? So this is one of the questions for you. So basically, environmental impact assessment is the impact assessment which is conducted prior to the implementation of any project, while environmental audit is almost the repetition of all those steps. Once the industry has been launched, the processes have been started, the procedures have been implemented, and the production has been started. So now you are much more in a better position to work out the consequences and implication and environmental implications, because now the products are there, and the physical existence of the industry will provide you an opportunity to define the environmental implications in a much more confident manner. So similarly, we have environmental reviews conducted. So and how you differentiate environmental reviews from environmental audits? Environmental reviews are covering a wider range of the possible implications, while now we are concerned with the only those implications which are targeted and which are physically applicable to the industry. So here are the ISO 14000 implementation, and you can see. So I think EMS you already know. So this table is important. If you see this table, we have 14001 as EMS, very well known. So 14010 is related to auditing, guidelines for auditing, and then 11 is again related to the procedures, part 1, auditing of environmental management system. So and then in 14012 we have the criteria for environmental auditors, and then for 14013 and 15, and we have guidelines for environmental auditing, and audit programs, reviews and assessments. So you can see that starting from 14010 onwards up to 14015, all the series ISO standards are linked with environmental audits in one way or the other. And 14040 and 43 you have already studied life cycle assessments, and environmental labeling is another very important standard. So actually all these things are complying with the all the procedures taken within the industry. So you can link all these steps with the environmental management. So 14000 series is actually covering all these steps, which in one way or the other is supporting the 14001 environmental management system series. The difference in 14001 and 14010 is that now we are actually confirming that all the procedures adopted in 14001, what is their progress, how they are working, and if they are not working with their limits and not complying with the standards, rules and regulations, then they need to be followed up. So this is the simplified purpose of our environmental auditing series. So I think it is again the same repetitions, so please go through these slides. And there is another example in PDF form, and that document contains the definition and objectives, and there is a checklist in the end. So please go through that checklist, it is very important, and that will give you a better idea about the environmental audits.